I still hear her words every time I close my eyes. You'll die alone, and nobody will even notice. She didn't whisper it. She looked me straight in the face while my son stood there saying absolutely nothing. That was the moment I realized I had already lost my family long before I walked out the front door. If you enjoy emotional stories that reveal what families are really capable of, subscribe to Family Betrayal. And one quick thing before we keep going. The faces, photos, background footage, and scenes you see are only there to help tell the story. They're meant to bring the emotions to life, not show the real people involved. My name is Daniel. I'm 68 years old, a retired electrician from Ohio. After my wife Linda passed away from cancer, the silence in our house became unbearable. My only son, Ryan, kept insisting I move in with him and his wife, Melissa. He said they wanted me close because family should stick together. I believed him. Looking back now, I wish I had listened to the little voice in my head that kept telling me something didn't feel right. The first week seemed normal. Melissa smiled, cooked dinner, and asked about my health. But little things started changing. My favorite chair disappeared because she said it made the living room look old. My family pictures were packed into boxes because they didn't match her decorations. She even told me not to use the front entrance when her friends visited because she didn't want them asking why an old man was living there. Every insult felt small by itself, but together they slowly crushed me. Ryan noticed everything, yet every time I looked at him for help, he lowered his eyes and changed the subject. I couldn't understand how the little boy I had raised alone after losing his mother had become a man who couldn't defend his own father. Then Melissa started controlling my money. She said it would be easier if my Social Security checks were deposited into their account so she could manage household expenses. Ryan told me it was only temporary. I trusted my son. That decision would become the biggest mistake of my life. Tell me honestly, if your own child stayed silent while someone treated you like you didn't matter, what would you have done? Because what happened next proved Melissa had been planning something much worse from the very beginning, and I had no idea the nightmare was only getting started. The morning after my Social Security check landed in their account, everything changed. Melissa stopped pretending to be kind. She handed me a list of house rules, like I was some stranger renting a room instead of the man who had sacrificed half his life to raise Ryan. Breakfast had to be over before 7. I wasn't allowed to adjust the thermostat. I couldn't invite anyone over without asking permission. The last rule hit the hardest. Please stay in your room when we have guests. It makes things less awkward. I read the paper 3 times, hoping I had misunderstood it. Ryan walked into the kitchen, glanced at the list, and quietly poured himself a cup of coffee. He didn't argue. He didn't even look embarrassed. That silence hurt more than Melissa's words ever could. A few days later, I overheard Melissa talking on the phone. She laughed and said, "Once we sell his house, he'll have nowhere else to go. Then everything will finally be under control." My heart started racing. I stepped back before she could see me, but those words echoed in my head all day. My house wasn't just a building. It was where Linda and I had built our lives, where Ryan had taken his first steps, where every memory of my family still lived. That evening I asked Ryan if they were planning to sell my home. He froze for a second before forcing a smile. "Dad, we're just talking about possibilities. You're overthinking it." Melissa interrupted before I could answer. "Honestly, Daniel, you don't need a whole house anymore. It's just wasting money." She spoke as if my opinion didn't matter. From that day on, I stopped sleeping. I kept my bedroom door locked at night. I quietly gathered every document I could find, my bank records, property papers, insurance files, and hid them inside an old toolbox in the trunk of my car. Something deep inside me said I was running out of time. Then one afternoon, I came home from a walk and found a real estate agent standing in my living room, measuring furniture and taking pictures. Melissa smiled like nothing was wrong and said, "We're just getting ideas." But the agent looked at me with the kind of expression that said he had been told this house already belonged to someone else. That night, I heard Ryan and Melissa arguing behind their bedroom door. I couldn't make out every word, but I clearly heard Ryan say, "If Dad finds out the truth now, everything will fall apart." I stood frozen in the hallway, because I knew they weren't just talking about my house anymore. They were hiding something far bigger, and I was about to discover exactly what it was. I barely slept that night. Ryan's words kept replaying in my mind. "If Dad finds out the truth now, everything will fall apart. I didn't know what the truth was, but I knew I couldn't wait around for it to destroy me. The next morning, while they were both at work, I drove straight to my bank. The manager recognized me immediately and frowned when he saw the recent changes to my account. After checking the records, he quietly asked, "Mr. Carter, did you personally authorize adding your son as a joint account holder with full access?" My stomach dropped. I had signed paperwork believing it was only for automatic bill payments. Instead, Ryan had been given complete control over my savings. The manager helped me freeze the account before any more money disappeared. Then I drove to my attorney's office with shaking hands. Within an hour, I learned something even worse. Someone had already started preparing paperwork to transfer ownership of my house. The signatures looked like mine, but they weren't. My attorney leaned back in his chair and said words I'll never forget. "Daniel, this looks like attempted fraud." For a few seconds, I couldn't breathe. My own son, the little boy whose scraped knees I had bandaged, whose college tuition I had worked overtime to pay, had allowed this to happen. I didn't call Ryan. I didn't send a text. I simply packed my clothes, took Linda's old photo album, and left their house while they were gone. I left my room exactly as it was, with the bed neatly made. The only thing on the dresser was a handwritten note. "I hope one day you understand that money can replace comfort, but it can never replace character." I turned off my phone and disappeared. A close friend from church offered me a small guest room. My attorney filed emergency paperwork, canceled every fraudulent document, and reported the forged signatures. For the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Then, almost exactly 1 month later, my phone lit up with a number I knew by heart. It was Melissa. The same woman who looked me in the eyes and said I would die alone was crying so hard she could barely speak. "Please, come back. We need you." After everything they had done, I never imagined those words would come out of her mouth. But when I finally learned why she was begging, I realized fate had already delivered a punishment far greater than anything I could have planned. I stared at my phone while Melissa kept crying. For a moment, I thought about hanging up. Then she whispered, "Ryan's in the hospital." My heart sank. No matter what had happened between us, he was still my son. She explained that Ryan had been injured in a serious highway accident. He was expected to recover, but he wouldn't be able to work for months. The medical bills were already piling up. On top of that, the investigation into the forged documents had frozen their finances. Their lawyer had advised them to cooperate because the evidence was overwhelming. Everything they thought they had secured was falling apart. Melissa finally admitted the truth. She had convinced Ryan that if they controlled my money and sold my house, they could pay off their debts and start over. She believed I was old enough that I wouldn't fight back. She never expected me to leave quietly or protect myself before they could finish their plan. Then she said the words I never thought I'd hear. "I was wrong. I treated you like you were a burden instead of family. Please forgive me. We don't deserve it, but we're asking anyway." A few days later, I visited Ryan in the hospital. When he saw me walk into the room, tears filled his eyes before he could speak. He kept saying, "I'm sorry, Dad. I was weak. I let the person I loved convince me to betray the man who never stopped loving me." I believed he meant every word. But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. I refused to move back into their house. My attorney continued with the legal process, and ownership of my home and finances remained completely under my control. Ryan accepted responsibility and worked to repair the damage he had caused. Melissa wrote me several letters over the following weeks. Some I answered, some I didn't. Trust, once broken, isn't rebuilt with promises. It's rebuilt with years of consistent actions. 6 months later, Ryan came to my house alone. He didn't ask for money. He didn't ask for another chance. He simply spent the afternoon fixing my fence, making us coffee, and talking like the son I remembered. Before he left, he hugged me tighter than he ever had. I realized something that day. Forgiveness is a gift you give yourself, but trust is a privilege that has to be earned. Today, I still live in the home my wife and I built together. It's peaceful. It's full of memories. And most importantly, it's full of dignity. Ryan visits often now, and little by little, we're building a healthier relationship. Melissa has apologized many times. I hope she becomes a better person, but I also know some scars exist to remind us which doors should never be opened again. If this story taught me anything, it's this. Never let loneliness convince you to surrender your self-respect. Family should protect your heart, not take advantage of it. Now I'd like to hear from you. What would you have done if someone in your own family had betrayed your trust like this? Share your thoughts in the comments because your perspective might help someone going through a similar situation. If this story moved you, please share it with a friend or family member who needs the reminder that self-respect is never too expensive. And if you want more powerful stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to Family Betrayal. Thank you for listening. And remember, the people who truly love you will never make you feel like your worth depends on what you can give them.